3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the... Oh.
A little delayed.
Okay, yeah.
Nope, we're trying again.
Yep.
Welcome to the Drafted Podcast, where we, draft things. I'm your host, Daniel Prentice, joined by my co-host, Preston Thompson. Preston, how are you doing, and what are you drinking this week?
I am doing well, Daniel. I am drinking a sour beer from New Realm Brewing Company that a friend left over at my house, so there's no really telling how old it is. But I don't really want to go to the grocery store to get that new craft thing I really want to try, so I'm drinking whatever is buried in the back of the fridge. I don't want to look at the date. It's just going to scare me.
We all have to make sacrifices in this weird and trying time. And we're joined, Preston, this week. We're very fortunate to be joined by Patrick Stegemoeller, who's said to introduce him as a one-time fantasy football champion and a multi-time eating contest winner. He is also, you can hear him every other week on his own podcast, In the Fields. Pat, how are you doing, and what are you drinking this week?
This week? Oh, boy. Week's just getting started. But, well, there's a brewery near where I live in Carroll Gardens called Svendale that has been selling some... Normally they just have stuff on tap, but they've been selling to-go cans. So we stocked up on some of those yesterday. And it's pretty good stuff. So if you're in Brooklyn and you want to spend $24 for a 4-pack of beer, check out Svendale.
But pretty soon, that standard currency is not going to be useful anymore. Let's just be honest.
Right.
We're going to abandon that whole system and start over with something different.
Welcome to the crypto corner here on Drafted.
Bitcoin is the future.
Preston, as someone who lives in Georgia, you have to be on the train that everything is getting just right back to normal right around now, I thought.
It's true. I've shut my eyes and I've held my nose together and I'm saying everything is fine. Everything is completely fine. I can go get a haircut with 5 people around me and it's all going to be okay.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't announce that I myself am just drinking water from my Nalgene. I didn't get on the draft craft beer train as my 2 cohorts have. But why don't we get to it?
Is this your bit where it's you're only ever drinking water, and then for your 100th episode, you're just gonna pound Everclear?
Yeah, teetotaler until episode 100 when I just black out on the pod. So everyone has that to look forward to. 100 episodes from now. No, usually I'm totally fine drinking beer. I just whatever, wasn't feeling it this week. Wasn't gonna feel peer pressured into it, But Preston, why don't you tell us what we're drafting this week?
So, for our first inaugural episode, we are drafting fictional athletes to participate in competitions of basketball, baseball, and football. A couple parameters here. Every team will eventually end up with 5 players and 1 coach. We're going to use a standard snake draft to fill out all the teams. Players must be featured in a movie, so television or comic strip does not count. And they cannot have any sort of supernatural ability. So the example I gave to you two was that one time Superman played baseball in a 1972 movie. That does not count. That is just unfair. So those are our parameters for the day.
So it's got to be movies, no TV shows.
Just movies.
Okay, well, that changes things.
Does that eliminate half your list? We talked about this. We had a meeting.
It might. Look, the line between movies and television has never been thinner. Particularly,
you've got Sherlock with 90-minute episodes now.
Right, exactly.
That's a movie.
Okay, no, I can deal. I can recover from this. I'll have maybe a couple honorable mentions at the end of the show to throw in there if we were expanding to TV. But no, I'll be good. I'll be okay.
Actually, this is unfair. Pat seems to get to superhuman abilities himself when in the corner, when he has things taken away from him. So I think we've actually just lost the draft just by Pat now being unprepared. We have no chance.
It's possible. And we should say that afterwards, people are going to have the chance to vote. So we are all going to come out of this episode thinking one person clearly won, but because of how the internet works, it will be somebody different.
Yeah, that's pretty much always how it goes. Preston, do you have a draft order for us?
Yes. So drafting 3rd overall will be myself. 2nd overall is who? I've already forgotten.
It's we're ruining the magic now, but the draft order is Pat first, me 2nd, Preston 3rd.
I'm only
and then it'll snake around.
This is great. Put me on the spot first after you axe out half of my draft board. That's good. Glad to know it's that kind of program.
The easiest pick. So you still have, all of that half available to you here.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm ready to go whenever you guys are.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Okay. With the first overall pick, and this might stir up some controversy right away, Michael Jordan from Space Jam.
Okay, I already have a gripe. Can you consider Michael Jordan a fictional athlete?
Did Michael Jordan IRL get pulled down a golf hole into a weird cartoon space world that is somehow
that is what
under
Warner
our planet?
Brothers That is what Warner Brothers would have you believe. It is based on a reality that then changes.
Right. I think the Michael Jordan in Space Jam is a fictional version of Michael Jordan.
Also, can I just, if we were to accept this pick, I'm going to point out that the movie begins with him being really terrible at baseball. So
I thought about this. This. Yes. Like
go Birmingham Barons.
It is certainly a strike against him.
And not great at golf either. Not really.
Yeah. I will say, really terrible seems somewhat unfair considering the fact that he was playing AA professional baseball.
That's true. Yeah.
So
that's fair.
Grand scale.
And he was
still
batting
pretty good.
He was batting like 220.
Yeah, I mean, real Michael Jordan, I think, was in like 200.
Yeah.
So
like, I mean, it's bad, but it's not like I'd be hitting 0.
So I have to ask, Daniel, was he on your list? Like,
no,
is this an acceptable pick to you?
It's a completely bullshit pick by Pat, but we'll let it slide.
It's the most Pat thing ever. Yeah. Well, I think people in their voting can take into account that he has picked a real athlete.
I did consider Michael. I'm on a first name basis with him. I try to stay away from the fictional versions of real people. There are lots of those, and I think you could argue that basically any movie that is a biopic, has a fictional, as Space Jam has a fictional version.
But Space Jam's not a biopic.
No.
How do you know? How do you know?
Yeah. Were you there, Pat? Sure? Were you on that golf course that day? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But that's fine. I am now up, so it's my pick, and I'm kind of stretching the boundaries as well, because I'm using a character who's primarily a TV character, and actually in the same movie, I'm taking Bugs Bunny. My first pick.
Okay.
And I will tell you why. Of course, we know that he's a pretty solid basketball player. I would argue, like 2B. He and Lola Bunny on the Space Jam team. But the reason I'm taking Bugs Bunny is because, canonically, if you include his TV exploits, which I think you have to,
sure,
he is the greatest baseball player to have ever lived. If you have not seen the Looney Tunes episode Baseball Bugs, do yourself a favor, because he beats a team called the Gas House Gorillas, who was up on another baseball team 95-0, and these guys are all like roided out mega human beings. Bugs single-handedly comes back and beats them 96-95. He pitches, he catches, he plays every single position. He hits a home run every single time up. I mean, his WAR is off the charts. So not only do I get a good basketball player who I think will be solid at football, receiver, running back, I get the greatest baseball player of all time.
Okay, I'm willing to accept this pick with the provision that you don't get his drop an anvil on someone's head powers.
Sure.
Yes.
No,
you don't
totally.
get the Looney Tunes physics of the world. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna need the physics. I won't drop any anvils on that.
He can't you do a chalk drawing of like a train coming through a tunnel, and a train actually comes through the tunnel.
No, and you need to watch the episode, because he beats them totally legit. There's no Wile E. Coyote effects whatsoever. He just is the greatest baseball player to have ever played the game.
Okay, I would argue that MJ's point total against the Monstars in the game, they came back from I think an actual inconceivable number. At some point, the Monstars lead was so big, the scoreboard no longer reflected numbers. It just said a lot or something like that. So I think that, we have comparable picks here thus far, but I'm excited to see what Preston.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am up third. I'm just going to say the whole supernatural ability thing, that rule has been kind of morphed a little bit already with the first two picks. I mean, Michael Jordan ends that movie with his arm being about 45 feet long, but that's completely okay because it makes me feel better about my pick, which I thought would be controversial. We're just getting him out of the way. in the first round. So I am going with the only fictional athlete that I could think of that has played all of our sports.
I know where this is going.
And that
I know exactly
is
where this is
one
going.
Mr. Airbud.
Yep.
Lock.
Immensely talented
Lock.
baseball player, which please don't ask me to explain those physics because I can't. Basketball player, that makes a lot more sense to me. Football also doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but people seem to ignore him because he's a dog. He is already the best player on all three of those teams in every movie. He's the clear number one choice here.
Well, so my counter would be is I'm not sure he's the best player in all those teams. Doesn't the kid like hit all the game-winning shots and make the game-winning plays? Like, and I think the actual dog's name is Buddy, not
That's
Airbud.
because he's a team player.
Yeah. So yeah, his value is in like the uplifting nature he has, in addition to his versatile game, of course.
But there is not anybody, and I could be surprised by who you guys have on your list. There's not anybody I could think of that would be able to, even if he's just like the number 2 man. Mm-hmm. He's the number 2 man in all of the sports.
No, he's a great pick. He was very high on my board.
There's nobody else that,
all right,
that I could think of that was like that.
Couple things here. And obviously we can't give a, intense scrutiny of each pick. Will be here forever. I do want to say, one, I think you got to kind of build your team around him, which, first round pick, understandable, but you're building a dog centric offense.
Yes.
And you got to take that into account with the rest of your picks. 2, do you dock any points that he's primarily playing against children?
Fair point.
I know that he does come in and save a penalty at the 2003 Women's World Cup or something like that at the end of the soccer one when Brianna Scurry gets injured. But that's one play.
Do we think an NFL defense is going to be like, screw this and absolutely wreck a dog that's on the field?
I mean,
100%.
If they're playing the Falcons in the 2000s.
All right, Preston, your pick up again.
Yes. So I'm going to go with somebody a little more traditional here. I was having a hard time filling out my baseball category in terms of finding players that could also transfer to other sports. So I'm going to immediately try and take one off the board that I think can do that, which is Mr. Willie Mays Hayes from the movie Major League. Got elite level speed, very decent baseball player, probably the second best player on that team, probably, but really has the athletic potential to transfer to the other sports. That's what I was looking for.
Hard to argue. One of the fastest fictional athletes of all time.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how he didn't seem like he had a quick learning curve. Like, it took an entire movie for him to get some basic premises of adapting to a slightly more, metrics-oriented approach to the game.
Sure.
But I'd be interested to see how the experiment works out because the raw ability is clearly there.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. The athleticism translates to the other sports well, I think. Okay, my second pick. I'm taking Jesus Shuttlesworth from He Got Game.
Yep.
It's Ray Allen.
Yep.
I know.
One of the greatest basketball players of all time. It's a fictionalized version of him, but come on.
I thought I was going to steal that pick. I didn't think that was going to really come up because, as I've heard, the movie is pretty meh, but I had him on the list.
Well,
too.
it does have Denzel Washington playing a version of Denzel Washington, which is always good. Mm-hmm. But I think, my baseball team is covered. I don't even need to worry about it anymore. Bugs can cover every position. Ray Allen, immensely good basketball player, and I think you can very easily line him up as a receiver in football, and he'd be very dangerous with his height and his speed. So I feel great about getting Jesus Shuttlesworth here.
I think going basketball there is smart because basketball is probably Bugs' weakest.
Yes.
With the height issue is going to come up. So getting a basketball player there is huge. I was actually watching some clips from He Got Game today. Not even doing research for this, just because I didn't want to be doing
your
work.
weekly clips. Yeah.
And that movie is preposterous, and it seems as though it is scored by TikTok. Like, every scene seems like it's someone doing a Twitter video of what would be the most inappropriate soundtrack to play over the clips right now.
Yes.
Okay.
I think from what I can understand from just watching the clips, it seems like Ray Allen beats Denzel Washington in one-on-one, and then Denzel Washington concedes the game and then immediately walks back into prison. That is an insane movie. Okay.
Basically.
Anyways.
Okay. All right. I've got 6 and 7 here. I've got the
back-to-back
wraparound,
picks for Pat,
which is always tough. You really got to nail these because you're not going to get pick a while. So as you've already pointed out, baseball is a little bit of a weakness of Jordan's because we have empirical proof that he is not a world-class baseball player. So I'm going to go for a baseball player who also I think has some really well-rounded potential. A fighter, a gritty person, a great leader on and off the field. I'm going with Dottie Hinson from A League of Their Own.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
She's a catcher.
love that pick.
Being a catcher is hard. I'm assuming that you're going to need catchers here, and that's murder on your knees if you don't know what you're doing. Great hitter, and she was great at everything growing up. She was, all whatever at every possible sport. I feel like she probably could have been an Olympian. And again, amazing leader on and off the field. And we're going to need that sort of cerebral, presence on the team because my next pick kind of lacks in that department. I'm going with Forrest Gump.
Okay, so I'm going to really just repeat verbatim a conversation I had. For our listeners, I went to the University of Alabama. The topic of Forrest Gump comes up a lot. So, Forrest Gump, end-to-end raw speed. Just the fastest person on any field. Here's the thing. Basketball courts are relatively small. I don't think the raw speed really matters at all when it comes to basketball and actually trying to get on base in a baseball setting. It seems like he is a one-dimensional talent, which is I'm going to return kicks on your football.
Look, if he was just a kick returner, that'd be one thing. I mean, he's also in a 5v5 game. I don't know how much 5v5 tackle football you've played, but you can't even have kickoffs really because anyone who's good at returning kicks immediately scores a touchdown. But let's not forget, he's also the world's greatest ping pong player. His hand-eye coordination is incredible.
That's fair. That is fair. I will say I think the strongest argument against Forrest Gump. Now, listeners, of course, can't see this, but behind Preston is about like 4, 5, 6 kind of wall decorations. I think all 6 of them are Alabama paraphernalia.
Pretty much. So
if Preston is low on the Gump pick, I feel like that doesn't exactly bode well.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think there's a certain self-loathingness to Preston's relationship with Forrest Gump, though?
I do not think that.
So here's the question, Pat. Does he, with, as we know, early buyer into Apple stock, founder or co-founder of the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company,
right.
Does he help finance your team? We got to think about gear here. The best equipment.
Between him and MJ, we're loaded. We have the best gear. We are great. Also, he's a great learner. He's obviously he's maybe doesn't have this sort of quick repartee, but he picks things up. He can assemble that gun and disassemble it with military precision almost immediately. You give him a task, he can accomplish it. With Dottie, with MJ there, just sort of pointing him and playing video games with him, I feel like he's an asset. He's certainly an asset and a freak athlete.
Okay.
Yeah. I also don't want to overlook the Dottie Hinson pick. I love that pick. As you said, Pat, the lead. I mean, the physical ability speaks for itself, but the leadership really is, I think, extremely valuable in a team that's trying to compete against a lot of different sports. So I am up next, and with my pick, I feel like I need to address the quarterback position. I'm torn between a couple guys. I don't want to give a future pick away, but I was considering Paul Crewe here from The Longest Yard. But I think I'm going to go for his superior athleticism, Willie Beeman, the quarterback from Any Given Sunday. I think his athleticism is just going to translate very well to a little bit better than Crews would have to basketball and baseball as well. So I feel great about this. He was like Michael Vick, but better and without all of the unnecessary distractions, shall we say.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I had my list of potential draftees separated into tiers, and now the top tier only has 2 players left in it. So I think I should have had a little more foresight into knowing that you guys were going to be looking at the same Bleacher Report articles that I was looking at.
And I believe that both Jesus Shuttlesworth and Willie Beeman are like super into threesomes, if I remember those movies correctly. So you get a lot of your team will have something to talk about.
Sure.
Good for team chemistry as well, potentially.
Yeah, running that 3-man weave.
I'm suffering on team chemistry with one of my players just being a dog. I think
Everyone
he's going
loves
to have a hard
dogs.
time communicating.
Man's best friend.
Man's best friend.
That's true. I like that pick, though. That's a good pick.
Thanks, Preston. You're up with 2 straight picks.
Okay, so as I said, my top tier list has gotten significantly shorter since we started. I'm going to fill out a kind of general flex football and what I think can probably translate to other sports pretty well with Mr. Bobby Boucher from the movie Waterboy. Mm-hmm. Again, similar to Pat's argument, kind of a point-and-shoot player. You know, that rim offended your mother. Now take this basketball and dunk it right into there. I feel like we could have seen a Waterboy 2, you know, Bobby Boucher goes to the NBA sequel. Like, we could have seen that. So I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, this is either the best value in the draft or a disaster because he freaks out and quits the team immediately.
It's true.
But he's obviously the natural ability is off the chart, and I think you could even more so than Gump potentially. I mean, he like runs through like offensive linemen like it's nobody's business, and that, you know, that's incredible stuff.
Also, we got to think about this. Doesn't drink alcohol. Is a big family man. You know, kind of a simple
he
guy.
and the dog are kind of have a lot similar mental kind of. They're both.
I'm more looking for the good people. You know what I mean? The people that are gonna have each other's back.
I think the biggest knock against Boucher is I think it's extremely difficult to get him to play the game of basketball without fouling out in about a minute and a half. I think that's my biggest concern with Boucher. The athleticism potential, absolutely off the charts, but that would be my one concern.
Okay, that's fair.
Or wielding a baseball bat in anger.
And just getting suspended for the whole season, yeah.
Yeah, you put him at pitcher and then he just starts beaming whoever's up to bat. That's not a great combo. I grant you that. Okay, so for my next pick, I definitely have a basketball slot I need to fill in here. And I'm going to fill it with kind of what I would consider a sleeper. Mr. Clarence Withers, a.k.a. Coffee Black from the movie Semi-Pro. The co-inventor of the alley-oop, who at the end of the movie goes on to be signed by the San Antonio Spurs. Crazy freak athlete, great ball handler. Would love to see him at receiver and shortstop. I think he's just a kind of similar to like my Willie Mays Hayes pick here of just like a all-around athlete that I'm considering for every single sport.
And an innovator.
And you're going
to need that kind of ability to, hey, I'm playing a sport I'm not familiar with. What can I do to throw a curveball here?
Yeah. Well, and we know, all fans know it was Jackie Moon in a concussed vision that came up with the alley-oop, but he had to oop it to somebody. And who better than Clarence Withers, a.k.a. the name that's very uncomfortable for me to say, which is Coffee Black, to dunk that ball home. So, anyways, those are my 2 back-to-backs.
All right, well.
No coaches taken yet.
No, I'm not surprised by that. I think there's just so many great coaches that you're going to get a good one even if you get the third that's picked. So I'm not surprised by that development at all. My pick is up next after the Clarence Withers was not on my board. I will say that mostly because I'm not familiar enough with Semi-Pro.
Daniel.
Daniel.
You got time on your hands right now? You should. I think Semi-Pro is on Netflix. You should really.
Well, so I have seen it. This may alienate our entire base from the very first episode, but I'm not a huge Will Ferrell guy.
Oh my god!
Not a huge Will Ferrell guy. There's like 2-3 movies about from Will Ferrell that I like, and that one is like excessively Will Ferrell-y to me. Didn't do it for me, but that's okay. We'll move on. So my pick here is. Maybe cheating to take another pick from a movie I've never seen. But in doing my research, discovered that Shaquille O'Neal is in a movie other than Kazam. And in this movie, he plays essentially himself as a basketball player in the movie Blue Chips. And that is Neon Boudreaux. Give me Shaquille O'Neal, any kind of version of Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, I'm winning the basketball competition.
Okay, but did your research show that movie ends with him suffering cardiac arrest on the court because he had a bum heart?
No.
Yes.
So here's the thing. No. Second of all,
it doesn't happen. So
okay. Second of all, actually a lot of the characters that were on my board, suffer some sort of horrible injury or whatever, and that's like, the quote unquote conflict of the movie. I'm going to operate in a world where, when I pick that player, different universe, they don't experience that injury. So I'm also just got to be the best name here, right? Neon Budo, best name of the draft. I feel comfortable lining up Shaq as a lineman on football, maybe a tight end. Who's going to stop him from catching lob passes in the end zone? Baseball, again, I don't have to worry about it. That's the great thing about getting Bugs Bunny is I can plug pretty much exclusively basketball and football, and I feel fine about it.
I think that's a steal, honestly, at this point in the draft. And if I hadn't taken MJ first, I probably would have tried to snap him up earlier. I think that's a great pick.
This is making me think of the other players in Space Jam that have their talent stolen, and if any of them are worth taking. Because, they pretty much had an all-NBA team that touches that glowing basketball to have their power stolen.
But here's the thing. You don't want Sean Bradley.
No.
You probably don't want Larry Johnson. Probably don't want Muggsy Bogues.
It's also like old, washed-up Charles Barkley.
Right. It's Charles.
That's true.
Yeah, it's Charles Barkley when he's on the Rockets.
That's fair.
Okay.
Totally fair.
All right. So I've got another around the horn twofer here.
Yep.
So
back to back for Pat.
Quick question for the board here.
Mm-hmm.
Can I take the kid from Like Mike?
Lil Bow Wow, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
There's a Lil Romeo.
I think his name is Calvin. I think the character's name is Calvin. I have not looked this up. I have not seen the movie in years.
So, okay,
you're drafting
here's
for
the
potential
thing.
Here.
Here's the thing. You can take the kid.
Do I get the shoes?
But the kid is not the thing that's good at basketball.
Right, so do I get the shoes?
I think reasonably you would get the shoes.
Why? No, I'm saying no. I'm saying you draft the player. You don't just magically get. What do you get? You get Forrest Gump's lawnmower when you draft Forrest Gump? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Put it on the Twitter poll. Should Calvin, if that's his name, get the shoes?
I can't take the risk of drafting him if I'm not going to get the shoes. If I get the shoes, though, he can jump 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will.
But okay, he is very tiny though. So for tackle football. I don't care what kind of shoes he's got.
That's Bud. Okay,
that's true.
Here's an interesting question though. If he gets the shoes, do the shoes translate to him being good at football and or baseball, or are they exclusively basketball talent?
They're Michael Jordan shoes, right? So you would just have another Michael Jordan, but about 4 feet shorter. Presumably.
But Michael Jordan didn't have an 8-foot vertical.
No.
That's true.
The potential is sky high here. There's a lot of mitigating factors.
I'm going to pass just out of caution. And boy, man, almost everyone else in my board was from a TV show. So I am going off the dome here. Okay, I'm gonna try to lock down football here, and I'm gonna take. I think I've built a pretty good clubhouse thus far. So I'm gonna go with a little bit of a hothead, but great athlete. Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire, who I think here's the thing. With 5 people, you don't need a great quarterback. I'm running more of an option set. It's a lot of running. It's a lot of pitches. And with him and Gump out on the field, with Dottie calling the shots, clearly she's the quarterback. She's the one making everything
definitely
happen.
A quarterback. Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like I've got the flying offensive potential now with all that to take things home. And then, okay. I'm literally now my board is only TV show characters. So I am.
Do you have to pick a player here, or I guess you still have a player slot?
I still have a player slot.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Chuck Norris from Dodgeball.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
interesting.
I've been led to believe he's capable of some pretty incredible things.
So, okay, I want to say, I thought about this. I had included on my list athletes that didn't play any of the sports we're talking about here. I had Ivan Drago. Would he be worth it at any point in the draft to take for any one of these sports? I will say, Chuck Norris never came up. Very good martial artist.
The word on the street is that Chuck Norris can do some pretty wild shit.
But so is this more of an intimidation thing? Is this your version of the New Zealand rugby team doing the whole foot stomping thing before a game?
They call it
oh my God,
a haka.
they have Chuck Norris. Thank you, the haka.
There you go.
They're like, oh my God, they have Chuck Norris. Like, he's going to push me down with the rest of the world.
Like, oh my God, they have Chuck Norris. I heard that when he went to the Virgin Islands and left, they were just called the Islands. Like,
oh my God.
Look, listen, I see the appeal.
I had nothing else on my board. I had to go with something off the dome.
I'll tell you, it's a deep cut. It's a deep cut.
And
but
he's flexible.
Sure.
Literally and figuratively.
He can punch and he can kick.
Here's the thing. So, Chuck Norris, we don't see him be an athlete in dodgeball.
He gives a very stern thumbs up.
He clearly has the respect of everybody there, and I'm going to choose to interpret that as being respect earned from the sort of prowess that we are familiar with.
All right, I'm sold. Okay, there are several players I would like to take here. I feel like I'm probably going a little heavy on basketball here, but I'm also of the opinion that I just think basketball players are our best athletes. Very, very close with football, I think. But
sure.
So I'm going to take Monica Wright from Love and Basketball. Long, successful career. Was a star in the early days of the WNBA. Goes head to head with Omar Epps, in that game of 1-on-1 where she takes him to next point and kind of just blew the layup.
Did she blow it?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell from the angle.
Movie magic, baby.
Not great camera work. But I mean, that was an NBA player. A star NBA player. So her skills, speak for themselves, I think, and the athleticism, I think, translates well to, receiver, running back, defensive back on football too. So feel great to get Monica right here with my last player pick.
There's a scene in that movie where she's like the camera switches to first person, like you're playing like a video game, and she's taking on defenders. It's a very good sports movie scene. The movie overall, I think, is good. Like if you're listening and you haven't seen it, like go online and just find that one clip because it's very, very cool. She's talking to herself in her mind about go left, go right. It's very cool.
All right, so Preston, that leaves you to take the last. I'm not sure what order you'll go in this. It doesn't really matter, but the last player chosen and then the first coach.
Sure. So both of these kind of come in a pairing because up until now I've drafted raw athletes. Just they can fill any spot. I'm not worried about them covering multiple positions. And a dog. Who again? Hey, you try and outrun a dog, Pat. Let me see you try it. So I need some direction. I need leadership. I need people who are calling the plays, and I need people who can, lead this team to success. Both of those players, or this one player and this one coach, are going to fill that slot. So the player I'm going to start with is Shane Falco from The Replacements, quarterback. Definitely needed a quarterback. It's kind of a uniquely specified skill set here. And the coach, Gordon Bombay from the Mighty Ducks. Those are inspirational leaders that are going to form these raw athletes into a very versatile
alcoholics
team.
Also probably.
Well, listen, yes,
an important point.
But I've counteracted that by having the rest of my team be very, clean living.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take my coach now. There are a lot of different directions I could have gone with this, of course. As I mentioned, so many great coaches in the world of fictional sports. I'm going to go George Knox from Angels in the Outfield for one main reason.
Interesting.
He has a proven connection with the heavens where you get, supernatural assistance. And I know that it's, Joseph Gordon-Levitt who has the real connection, but he adopts Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the end of the movie. So in any case where, my team needs a little bit of a boost, I've got it.
Hail Mary.
I've got it. We also see, that, the Angels are terrible, obviously, at the beginning of the movie, but we know from his past with the Cincinnati Reds that he was at one time a great baseball manager. So it's not entirely the supernatural, cheat code that I could potentially be getting with him, but he has a proven track record of just being a successful manager as well.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see whether or not you actually get like the powers of a Christian God. We'll leave that.
Yeah, that seems.
We'll leave that up to Revelations, I guess.
We'll all know someday.
Yeah. Okay, so for my coaching pick here, I think a mistake that Daniel made, not necessarily a mistake, but a path I don't want to go down is picking a sport-specific coach. Because here's the thing. It's 5v5 with a bunch of people playing the game that they don't necessarily really know. Having someone who's hard on like X's and O's of like, I know how to play football. I know how to play baseball. Is that what I'm looking for here? I'm looking for someone who can help manage personalities, who is good at asset management, someone who knows how to convince people to do what she wants, who knows how to, move pieces around the board, and knows how to get everybody, even though they might have some conflicting interests, to all calm down, take a beat, and move forward. I'm picking Molly Bloom from Molly's Game, the Aaron Sorkin penned and directed insane biopic about a former Olympic downhill skier who destroys her ACL and then becomes a poker maven.
Just as we are all very familiar and have definitely watched.
None of you seen this?
As everyone knows.
I've never even heard of this movie, but I'm sold. I mean, great elevator pitch.
It's a good pitch.
On Molly Bloom.
I'm now just realizing that she's a real person in a biopic and does not count, so I have to pick someone else. So my draft board was like all TV.
Let's give him a TV coach. Do you have a TV coach lined up?
I'll give you a TV coach.
Give me a TV coach? Well, then it has to be Eric Taylor.
Yeah.
Has to be.
It's a good one.
Who was also real, no?
No, he wasn't real.
So the TV versions were all not real.
Right.
He felt very real.
The movie one is real.
The movie is real. Okay.
Coach Taylor, only real in our collective hearts and minds.
Okay. He's real to me.
So quick recap of the teams, then we'll take a break and be back with more thoughts. So Pat ends up with Michael Jordan, Dottie Hinson from A League of Their Own, Michael Jordan, of course, from Space Jam, Forrest Gump from Forrest Gump, Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire, Chuck Norris from Dodgeball, and Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights. I have Bugs Bunny from Space Jam, Jesus Shuttlesworth from He Got Game, Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday, Neon Budo from Blue Chips, and Monica Wright from Love and Basketball, and then his coach George Knox from Angels in the Outfield. And Preston has Buddy from Air Bud, Willie Mays Hayes from Major League, Bobby Boucher from Waterboy, Clarence Withers from Semi Pro, Shane Falco from The Replacements, and Gordon Bombay, of course, from the Mighty Ducks. So we'll be back to break down those teams in just a second. All right, so we've got three interesting, fun teams here. First, though, in my research, I want to share something with you guys that I found. There is a fictitious athlete Hall of Fame. Were you guys aware of this?
No.
I saw this today, too, in my research. It came up in my excessive Googling.
So it's like pretty in-depth. They have athletes and contributors. Like, the different halls of fame have league contributors that make it. So the inaugural class into the fictitious athlete Hall of Fame 2014, Crash Davis, Ricky Wild Thing, Vaughn, Roy Hobbs, he's from The Natural, and then the contributor was Harry Doyle. Very, very baseball heavy, but it's kind of...
Can I just...
Yeah,
I need to say, Wild Thing is a little overrated. I mean, like, I get it. Like, you give him the glasses, he becomes like an elite pitcher, but like, I don't know. I don't see it. He becomes like the whole point of the movie is he becomes a good pitcher, and it's like good enough to like get them through. It's not like... I mean,
he's the best pitcher on a pennant-winning team. I think you're underselling Wild Thing a little bit here. Also, kind of the face of the franchise. He helped turn that team around. The 2015, you get a little from baseball a little bit. You get Happy Gilmore, Reggie Dunlop, and the Hanson brothers from both from Slapshot.
Were either of you tempted to take Happy Gilmore for this at all?
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Bobby Boucher is just like a significantly better version. So like, why would you?
You don't think Happy Gilmore? He goes to the batting cages a little bit. He can start hitting like 700-foot dingers.
If hockey was a sport, I would have considered it maybe because he's solid-ish.
No, he sucks at hockey.
Horrible at hockey. Can't even skate.
There's not a lot of hockey movies. Like he would have been up there.
I think he's a net negative at hockey compared to a person who doesn't play hockey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this actually brings up an interesting point, because we had considered going for more sports in this rather than just the three of baseball, football, and basketball. I actually do think there are enough hockey movies that you could make hockey teams with. I just think like hockey is such a bad sport to translate from the others. It's so different. And we kind of wanted to do soccer, but soccer is really a very limited sports film genre. So that's why we avoided those two and some other ones. One thing I want to talk with you guys before we get into the debate about which teams would win which sports. Were there any players, and Pat, maybe this will be a struggle for you since half your team was ineligible to be drafted, but were there any players that you were you really wanted to take and just didn't end up having room for?
I want to ask Pat what your top TV talents were.
So I'll quick rundown of some of the top TV ones. So a lot of players from Friday Night Lights. Voodoo Tatum was going to be my number one. I feel like he is unnecessarily slandered on that show. He's 2 weeks out of being displaced by Katrina and everything, but he's an incredible prospect. He's got the height for basketball. Voodoo Tatum would have been a great pick. But my number one TV pick, 100%, no question, no doubt about it, is Calvin Farquhar, who is Bo Jackson on Married with Children, and is essentially just Bo Jackson, multi-sport athlete, but also in the Olympics. And Bo Jackson, who of course played professional football and baseball, would have
at
been,
very high levels.
Yeah, would have been the best pick in the draft. But
you're not wrong about
unfortunately, that 10th season cameo character did not get a movie spinoff. So.
I think we're all losers in that.
The one movie character I want to throw out there that I didn't take was Shoeless Joe Jackson from Field of Dreams. Because here's the thing, he's a ghost. Now I got to assume I'm getting some stuff with that. Ghost, he's got to have some a weird grab bag of abilities. I don't know what they are, so it's a little too risky for me to take. But whether he can haunt my opponents or have them start weeping blood or something, it's going to throw them off in some way. But ultimately decided to not go with it.
As we all know, ghost athletes doesn't count as supernatural. That's out of no. Completely real, completely legitimate.
I mean, Prentice gets to pick the baseball manager who is has a hotline to the father of our
Creation.
Savior or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's never spelled out that is where the angels come from.
Okay, they came from down. They came from the worst place.
We don't know.
The angels are emissaries of Saloth, the old one, who has hidden for thousands of millennia, waiting to return.
They were cast out from heaven, and that's why they have to play baseball. Because baseball's a boring game. Okay, I had a coach that was overlooked. If I can jump on it real quick.
Okay, sure.
Most of my players were actually taken. I had Jimmy Chitwood from Hoosiers, but he's actually not really that good.
No.
Yeah.
He get wrecked by the other basketball players.
Right, I think so too. Benny the Jet Rodriguez from Sandlot, who at the end of the movie is a Dodger, but all we know about that is that he's just in the major leagues, which is good.
He steals home. We know he steals home. So
but
I think he's probably at least as valuable as Willie Mays Hayes.
There's more evidence on one side than the other. But anyways,
fair.
A coach that I was really considering that if Gordon Bombay from Mighty Ducks had been taken before is Coach Red from the evil team in Waterboy. Now, up until they play for Coach Red of the Louisiana Cougars, the fictional university, up until they play Waterboy's team there, they're completely undefeated. They've won 5 straight Bourbon Bowl titles. He is the fictional version of Nick Saban. And I want to read you his excerpt from Villain Wikipedia. Coach Ballou is his last name. Coach Ballou is a mean-spirited, vindictive, cunning, cruel, and unforgiving coach willing to do anything to win. Ballou has zero respect or regard to anyone else's well-being, even his own players. This is shown when he threatened to cut a player unless he got rid of the water boy. While Coach Ballou can be calm and collective one moment, when pushed, he is easily ill-tempered and destructive, lashing out with a fury. All of my team are pretty much goody two-shoes. I felt like this would have balanced it out pretty well, but it was hard to pass up the Gordon Bombay from my
wouldn't you literally be putting his antagonist in Bobby Boucher together. Like we have pretty more evidence of how
that just motivates him. That just in the movie, the coach of Bobby Boucher motivates Bobby Boucher by pretending to be Coach Red. So like this is just cutting out the middleman. Also, it's right there.
Also, doesn't seem like a man that would get along well with a dog.
Yeah, probably.
You know. Yeah. So I think you made the right choice in not going with Coach Red.
And by going with like the dangerous DUI ringing up alcoholic.
Hey, he redeemed himself, Pat.
Who, by the way, coaches a sport that isn't on our list of competitions here. So I kind of forgot about that part.
His like master stroke as a coach is being like negligent enough that he doesn't notice his team has like brought in a player that's not on the roster and switched jerseys so that they can unleash the wacky.
Yeah, did anyone consider Will Ferrell from Kicking and Screaming?
No, but I did. No. I did for a second think about Mike Ditka as my coach.
That's a good one.
But
there were so many good coaches that didn't get taken.
Yeah,
so many good coaching options. A couple of players that I really wanted to have a spot for Steve Nebraska, from the Scout. He's a pitcher who throws 100 miles per hour, pitches a shutout in the World Series, and also hits 2 home runs. Like they win the World Series game 2-0 entirely because of him. If I didn't get Bugs Bunny, if someone had taken Bugs Bunny before me, I would have built my baseball team around him. Pretty well-rounded game.
Baseball threw me off the most for this because there are like specialized positions like that. Like I don't have a pitcher on my team. I just don't have one.
So here's what I'm thinking with baseball. It's hard to play baseball with 5 people. Mm-hmm. Is really what we're doing
unless you have Bugs Bunny.
Is really what we're doing here playing like wiffle ball?
Sure,
yeah, kind of.
Or like baseball with kickball rules where like if you hit it to the wrong outfield, it's a strike or a foul ball or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're making it work. We basically thought, I think my initial plan was to go 7 players deep, and that's just too many players, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Lola Bunny was one that I strongly considered. Really just a great all-around basketball game. Was disappointed not to see her taken. But, we're kind of getting into how we're lining up. So why don't we get into that? Do you guys have thoughts on how you're lining up your team across the 3 different sports?
I'm a little scared. I don't necessarily really like it because I realize that now I have a lot of players that are kind of the Swiss Army knives, and I don't have a lot of specialists. I don't know where I'm putting Bobby Boucher on the baseball field. Field. I don't know where I'm putting Bobby Boucher on the baseball field. It is a field. I don't know where my head is at. Shane Falco, obviously quarterback, but can he do anything else? I'm not really sure. He'd probably end up being the pitcher for some reason, and I don't know the limitations of Air Bud. That is something we'll have to figure out together as a team.
Yeah, that's kind of like where you find out what the ceiling of your team is really what, like Pat said, we've only seen Air Bud against children.
It's true.
What's his game like at the pro level? We don't really know the answer to that.
So I think I'm feeling pretty good about my strategy for basketball. I mean, it's just late 80s Bulls basically. Like MJ's got the rock, everyone else is just running motion and getting out of the way. I feel pretty good about that given the competition here, and also just that MJ is the most pathological winner, as The Last Dance is revealing. And I feel like he would have just no compulsion with just putting up maybe some less efficient numbers, but getting the job done. Preston, you have a point?
I want to know where you put Chuck Norris in all of these sports. I want to know what you think he's
Chuck Norris is my Rodman. Clearly, Chuck Norris is my Rodman. He's snatching boards. He's boxing out. He's very, very supple, so he's like playing good defense. Amazing reaction times. Then football, again, like I said, I'm running a wide open, the spread. Dottie's my QB, and it's not a lot of deep balls. It's not a lot of, but because it's only 5v5, you're not having to like read hidden blitz coverages and like, oh no, the safety's cheating down or whatever, which is, the mentality that you need to have if you're a real quarterback who has years of experience. With this, it's a lot more, we're running options, we're running flea flickers, we're doing stuff in the open space, essentially to get Gump the Rock in space and let him just do his thing. We've got Rod Tidwell out here who can, maybe give us a couple X's and O's of like, all right, here's how you block for me. But with him and Gump out on the open field of 5v5, I'm feeling pretty good. And again, Chuck Norris out there just like karate kicking motherfuckers in the head, I guess.
I think my biggest question is, how do we know how fast twitch Forrest Gump is? We know he hits a high top end speed.
I mean, he's a kick returner.
The ping pong shows that he's got good reflexes.
And like the ping pong shows that his. Here's the thing.
Reflex is different than fast twitch, though. I would say the shiftiness is what I'm looking for.
It's true. It's true. I mean, he seems like he does a pretty good job running through the jungle, carrying like full-grown men.
Listen. He hits a hole like no other. If there's a hole, he's gone. My jungle, concern is when there isn't.
You're dodging vines and trees and rocks and mortar shells.
Sure. That's fair.
And then with baseball, I'm trusting Dottie's judgment here. I think that she's gonna do a good job of.
She's filling out the lineup card.
Yeah, she's filling out the lineup card. I'm hoping that Gump might be an incredible pitcher. It might be one of those things where he just has a flamethrower arm. We just have to point him in the right direction. But even if that doesn't work out, I think we're able to cobble together. Like, we're definitely a team that's more about like bunting, getting Gump on base so he can steal some bases. We're manufacturing runs here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pat, I have to say, I don't think either of our teams are holding a flame to Daniel in basketball. He has 2 NBA
Hall of Famers
and a third fictional character that would have been a Hall of Famer most likely in the WNBA. Like, I don't think we are coming anywhere close to that team in basketball.
The question, I think, is going to come down to how much can Michael do, really? Space Jam Michael.
A man who scores like 80 points in a game against 12-foot monsters.
Well, so
Monstars,
yes. I do think we need to get into this a little bit because, for me, the Space Jam game has always been a question of, did the Looney Tunes win it? Or did the Monstars lose it?
Ooh.
Why did they abandon the guaranteed 2 points every time they threw the ball down to the paint? They just abandoned the low game. That's the reason why they lost.
And they do murder like 3 of the Looney Tunes, which you got to think in an actual NBA game would be called fouls. So maybe you can lift up the Looney Tunes a little bit more because they're not playing under a standard rule set and that they lit one of the opposing players on fire.
Well, that also gets down to, like, I was kind of envisioning like pickup style, since you're playing football with 5 people. Are we playing this game under NBA officiation?
Well, we have 5. I would say it's not. Yeah. I'd say it's not NBA officiation, but I'd say it's like it resembles real basketball.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Sure.
So just quickly to fill up, my lineups. Bugs Bunny's playing every position for me in baseball. Don't even have to worry about the rest. He's proven it. I mean, he's the GOAT. Willie Beeman, of course.
But he's proved it in like the 20s, right? Against a bunch of guys named like Jeeves and Knuckle Knees who were playing like just in daylight. Like, they're not getting a Aroldis Chapman 102-mile-per-hour fastball under their chin.
Well, Bugs, I think, was throwing over 100. and I also believe that Bugs was hitting BP off of Bugs. So I don't think being able to hit the pitching is a problem. I mean, the translation to eras, maybe does get a little hazy, but I have absolute confidence in Bugs being able to hold down. And if not, I can just put some athletes out there in the outfield. Maybe have Neon Budo catch. Neon Budo is going to hit a home run every time he goes up. If I really need to fill out more holes in my lineup. But so Willie Beeman, of course, is my quarterback. I have Bugs Bunny, Monica Wright, and Jesus Shuttlesworth as my skill positions. I feel very, comfortable with all of them and at receiver or running back. Probably Shuttlesworth at wide receiver just because of the height. And then Budo, lineman, tight end, hybrid. And then Monica Wright at point guard, Jesus Shuttlesworth at shooting guard, Willie Beeman small forward. I'm pretty sure Bugs plays power forward.
Which is preposterous.
In the space. It is absolutely preposterous, but I know he can hold down the 4. I know he can hold it down. And then, of course, Neon Budo, a.k.a. Shaquille O'Neal, probably the most dominant, physically dominant big man in NBA history is going to be my center. So I feel good about all of this.
So I think we should go around and say if you had to pick a winning team, in all 3 sports combined, which of these 3 would you pick?
Well, so I'm not sure what you mean by combined, but I think we should go sport by sport here.
Okay.
And we can discuss like overall across the board who's the best. But so which team is winning the baseball competition? Preston, why don't you start it?
You do have a point about Bugs Bunny. He does play every position, but I'm really just thinking about our rule, like you can't take supernatural abilities. Like we discussed when you picked him, that limits him slightly, but not like completely. So if he can still play every position like that, then you seem to be a pretty clear favorite there. Although Michael Jordan has played baseball.
Professional.
Yeah. Pat,
what do you think?
It all comes down to how Bugs does. So we'll see. I feel pretty good about my crew. I think Dottie's going to be, a great asset there. I think if we can get Forrest Gump's going to be like Pete Wheeler from Backyard Baseball. Whereas, if we can get him on the base paths, then we're going to be in business.
It's an automatic run. Yeah.
Right. And Preston, I don't think you guys are built for baseball here, which is fine. I think you're built for some of the other sports, but I mean, Air Bud was like baseball was like the thing Air Bud was shittiest at too, in the Air Bud movies.
I mean, just think about it. Like, if he tries to play shortstop and a line drive comes at him, and he's going to catch it with his teeth. Yeah, that is not safe viewing for children.
You got to put him in the outfield, I think.
I think so.
Put him in center.
But then again,
rangy.
So he catches a grounder that gets through and goes to the outfield. Is he going to hit the cutoff man?
He's got to run it in.
Yeah, this seems very problematic. He's significantly better at the other sports.
Yeah, I do think that my baseball team has the highest ceiling, which is ironic considering I'm the only one who didn't pick a baseball player.
Yeah.
But I do feel good. Bugs. The ceiling is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I mean maybe he's a little limited, and I think some of my athletes can help pick up the board. But I like my team in baseball. So how about football, Preston? Who's winning football?
Good question. I think Pat had a good argument. I mean, he's just running go routes with crazy fast. I mean, you can put a safety over the top on Forrest Gump, run him on a go route, and then just give your strongest arm to put it down there. But I do think I have a pretty good case too, because I have raw athletes across the board and one truly proven quarterback, like an actual quarterback that knows how to play the position. So, and the reason I got him is to compete on the football section. So I'm still going to say that I've got the football section.
Here's my issue, Preston. Falco, a little injury prone, and I'm telling Norris to sweep the knee on that one. I'm going straight.
Wow, coming right out.
I am going bounty gate.
But if there's five on a side in football, we're playing by at least 6 or 7 Mississippi. So
look, here's the thing. Even if Norris gets ejected for karate chopping Shane Falco's rotator cuff into a million pieces, that's fine. 4v4, more advantage for me, more open field for Gump and Tillman.
Do I get the rest of Keanu Reeves' characters in being able to defend himself against Chuck Norris? Because that would be helpful if a martial arts type person were to come after him.
Chuck Norris has his 5 fouls to give in basketball. He's got 2 personals in football. And he's going to make use of them.
Yeah, oof. I don't like that you basically got a hitman on your team.
Well, so here's the thing. Because Pat says, a little tit for tat, 1 for 1, I'll go 4 on 4. The problem is Preston still has Bobby Boucher on his team, who I think even without cheating is probably going to injure about half of your team. Pat, really, Pat and I are both desperately hoping that football is the last sport we play of the 3.
Because you won't be able to continue.
Yeah, because after a football game against Bobby Boucher, there's no way we're lining up a full team in basketball and baseball. I do think it comes down to the two of you. My team is not particularly strong in football. I definitely focus more on the basketball. I just think Shane Falco, great quarterback. I think he probably edges Dottie, despite clearly not being the better leader. But Pat has Eric Taylor.
Right.
And that's such a huge advantage in
nobody
a football
draws
game.
Up a last-minute Hail Mary like Eric Taylor.
I think talent-wise, Preston takes it. I think the coach gives Pat the edge in a really close classic of a game.
Wait, you think that
you're
Gordon
discounting
Bombay, as he like listlessly sips on his third warm Miller Lite of the game, isn't gonna?
Actually, there's a better criticism of Gordon Bombay beyond that obvious one. His one winning play is an illegal play. The flying V. It's not a legal hockey play. So
it's a legal football play. I'll tell you that. We're doing it.
It certainly is not. Certainly is not. So I have some concerns about what Gordon Bombay really brings to the team, other than of course being a beloved character from a classic movie from our childhoods. But that's not doing much for me in this scenario, unfortunately. So my vote is for Pat in the football. Now all that's left is basketball.
I think it's, as we discussed, I think it's clearly you. I mean, you drafted your team specifically for basketball. Just omitting kind of the characters they played, Ray Allen and Shaquille O'Neal. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good base right there. And then you add Monica Wright. I mean, you're there. You've done it. Congratulations. You can put one of those people on the bench and do a rotation in and out, and you'd still probably beat both of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an outside shot that MJ is able to just, and again, this is Space Jam Michael Jordan, not real life Michael Jordan.
No, of course.
So I don't think it's a slam dunk, to use the term of art. But I think Daniel has certainly you would favor him going into that matchup, which is exactly what Michael Jordan wants, because he knows, he's heard you talking smack
he's right
about
where he
him.
wants it. He's right where he wants to be. Yeah, I'm screwed.
Seeing red.
I'm screwed.
In this alternate timeline, my team is the team that invents the alley-oop. So I get to use that against you. And that's got to at least get me closer, if not over the top.
And Gump is not going to be able to do anything after he sees that happen, because he's just going to be puzzling, looking at it, just like, I don't know what that was.
I think Gump is basically worthless on a basketball court.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically having him basket hang. Like I'm just any rebound, just go routes out to Gump.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so I mean, there's no metric for this,
right?
But who do we think?
Yet.
Next episode we'll get Cody Mills, our friend Cody Mills, to like develop some sort of measurable to give us a definitive who wins each sport.
Well, this is what the voters are for, right?
Yeah, true. Everyone knows no vote has gone incorrectly in the past. But so who do we think is the best all around? Like, if we start adding other sports to this, who is just the best drafted assembled team?
I think it comes down to what Bugs gives you. Like, if Bugs is the like all conquering, Loki, god of jest that he has shown himself capable of being, then I think it's certainly Daniel's team. But if not, then that opens the door.
I have the same thoughts. Yeah, I think you win by more in basketball than we could potentially beat you in the other sports, probably. And that's problematic for me.
Yeah, well, as someone who spent way too much time preparing for this, I will happily take this very empty and hollow, but meaningful to me victory. Well,
it better be meaningful to you, because I don't think anybody else is going to listen to this.
No, we're going to get some listeners. Lisa, and shout out to Lisa, Pat's girlfriend Lisa, for vacating part of her tiny little apartment that I'm sure she's been trapped inside for months now, and letting us do this podcast in their apartment. But we have a guaranteed listen from Lisa at least. So
I don't know if she'll vote though. Like, that's maybe asking too much, honestly.
But speaking of voting, you'll be able to do that on Twitter @DraftedPod, so give us a follow over there. Also tweet at us if you have any suggestions for things to draft in future